All right, welcome back everyone to the next episode on SAP ABAP on HANA come S4 HANA technical training. In our last episode, we talked about the concept of S4 HANA readiness check. In addition, we have seen what it means for you as a consultant to do readiness check and improve the code quality to make it ready for S4 HANA. We've also talked about a brief on readiness check 2.0, which helps you to estimate for better tomorrow. And finally, in addition, we saw some performance guidelines and how do you run a performance tracing in production system. We finally drive out the list or result from production system and map this result with a static code check where you have violations and serious violations in performance guidelines. And then you get your priority list of what you need to fix. Now, most importantly, we need to know in order to fix, how do you fix it? How exactly, as a consultant, you would improve your code quality by some of the easy ways of following simple performance guidelines and some of the complicated ways of pushing down your logic to the database level, achieving a code to data paradigm. From today onwards, we are stepping into the new phase of this training, which will all about best practices and techniques to achieve code to data paradigm. If you want to understand code to data paradigm in detail, it is quite important to know a scenario as well. We need to have a real-time practical scenario. With the help of that, we should be able to build a use case and then map that use case with multiple different techniques and then compare, are these techniques really helping us to improve performance or not. So before we start writing the actual code, let's today talk about our use case. Our use case is once again inspired from the database design, which we all have looked into in the last episode of EPM data model. Yes, we will use the EPM data model to utilize our use case and build our case study. We will introduce you today the case study or the use case document or use case diagram to understand what our requirement is, implement the requirement as a plain ABAP developer, and then later on improve the code quality step by step in order to reach to the extreme code to data paradigm measures to improve code quality and performance using HANA. Whether you are on suite on HANA or whether you are S4 HANA, you're eventually on HANA. And when you're on HANA, your company would expect you to take full advantage of SAP HANA database. I would like to meet you one special guest today in our class. He is a consultant working in a company. His name is Mr. James. Mr. James is an account receivable accountant in the company, and he's the one who's going to give us requirement for our use case. We will understand who is Mr. James, what's the story about Mr. James, like a typical end user, and then understand his needs and requirements. Map these requirements to our EPM data model and then build the use case as a ABAP developer. But then help Mr. James to improve the performance of ABAP program step by step with variety of techniques to achieve ultimate code to data paradigm. So let me first introduce our user, Mr. James. As you can see on your screen, it's a hypothetical character I have visualized for all of you so that you get a feeling of real time. And the scenario is called OIA Scenario. Easy to understand and easy to implement for all of you, no matter which background you come from. Some of you working in SD, MM, PP, FICO, WM, EWM, PM, or different SAP modules. Irrespective of which area you work, you all will be able to understand this scenario, not just understand, but also code along with us in this training. This training is power packed with lot of case studies and scenarios for you so that you can take full advantage of HANA database. Y stands for Open Item Analysis. It is addressing a real-time use case in a company for Mr. James. So meet our end user, Mr. James, who is an account receivable accountant in a company. Now let's talk about our user first of all. Its user story. Just like a traditional typical user in any organization or in a company. Mr. James is a 54-year-old SAP user working as a account receivable accountant in ITEIO. ITEIO is the name of the company. This is where he actually works. Now, he lives in downtown near the river and drives Audi A8. He has his own home and is a nature loving person. That's what Mr. James is all about. So he's basically love nature, and that is how the typical end user would look like. Mr. James is working since in company since last 25 years in the same company. Hence, he has good influence on top management. He handles critical customer accounts for the company. Basically, critical customers which are giving good business to the company. That is what Mr. James is actually responsible for. That is what he does for the company. Now, he is here today to give his requirement to us so that we can help him implementing this requirement in SAP solution, especially in the S4 HANA solution, and then help his company to achieve this. Let's talk about his job role. What is job role of a account receivable accountant, and why Mr. James need you and me as a SAP S4 HANA consultant? Account receivable accountant. So what's the job of a account receivable accountant in a company? What do they actually do? It's inspired from a real-time use case, real-time scenario. This training is all about real-time case studies and scenarios. So you can map it to your business and learn these different techniques eventually. That is what we are actually learning as part of this journey, as part of this training. Okay, so now let's discuss about what is the job of an account receivable accountant in a company. So understand the cash plays a very critical role in the success of a company. It is in the best interest of a company to collect the pending bills on time from their customers. So cash has very important role in the success of the company, in the company operations. It is in the best interest of a company to collect pending bills from their customers quickly and swiftly, quickly, as soon as possible. By putting this cash back into the business, companies can increase their margin and execute further expansion plans. So if you ever done any business or thought about any business, you must have certainly thought about giving credits to customer. There must be some limit you would have thought about credits. And sometimes when you do business, you also need to be flexible with the customers. And you need to give the credit to the customers. But when you give too much of credit to the customers, it also comes with a risk to the customers. So now it is in the best interest to collect the payment. And that's where Mr. James comes into picture. So Mr. James works as an account receivable accountant who checks the customer account, collects all the unpaid invoices, the invoices which are not paid by the customers on time. Yes, bring the total amount and days since when invoices are due, and classify these customers with their ability or inability to pay their bills on time or not. That is what exactly his job is. So how can we help him? He want us to write a program, an ABAP report, which does the same thing to make his life easier. And we are going to develop this requirement. We need to find out all the unpaid invoices which are not paid by customers, and the invoices which are long pending due, and those invoices which have exceeded a predefined threshold. We need to classify those customers at a high risk. So with the one look, he will be able to identify all the invoices with whom he has to do the dunning. So ultimate goal is to find the most critical customers who are on life support. Yes, a customer you who have taken the material from you, who have taken the products and services and have a long list of dues. We need to find them. So ultimate goal is to find most critical customers in terms of total unpaid amount and average number of days the invoices are due. Compare these values with a predefined threshold limit, and then classify the customers as a high risk or low risk customer. So understanding this flow, you can see that typically there is a limit. Beyond that limit, you can't bear it, right? Everybody has a limit. Company also have a limit. Let's say this limit is, if I have a due of $4 million or 4 million euros. If any customer have not paid their bills which has exceeded this 4 million euro limit, we need to do a dunning with them. Dunning is simply sending a reminder, making a phone call. So you can see in these cases, there are some customers who are above and there are some customers who are below the limit. So the customers who are above the limit, they are at a high risk. And the customers below the limit, they are at a low risk. So we need to classify this customer. And this is your threshold. Now, imagine like Mr. James, there are other employees in the company who for whom the threshold limit can be different. Let's say another agent, another accountant, for his accounts, what he is handling for a small size customers, the threshold limit could be 100,000 also. Yes, that could be the limit for them. So this limit should be customizable for every user in the system. How do we implement this requirement? So before you start implementing the requirement, we need to focus on the design of this requirement. So what's our design goal? What are the steps we need to implement this requirement? Because if the steps are clear, certainly it will be easy for us to go ahead and implement this. But if the steps itself are not clear, we will not reach anywhere. Companies like SAP Labs, they focus 60% or 70% of their time on design, whereas companies like Accenture, TCS, Wipro, Genpact, they will focus more on coding. And that's why sometimes you might have a lot of rework in your company because some requirement came in the air, they are not clear, you develop, and at the end, you are penalized for what you develop because it was not clear. So we need to be very, very clear of our requirement. So let's write a technical spec, small technical spec to understand what will be our flow of development step by step. So first we need to maintain a customizing table to address or to store the threshold limit per user, which will be compared, classify high risk customers. This is our step number one. Then our next step will be to identify the average number of days. Remember, average number of days since when the invoices are unpaid by customer. So we need to find that as a step number two, which are the invoices not paid by customer on time. To do this step, there are subtasks, there are sub steps, and the sub steps would be to first get all the unpaid invoices. And the database table is SNWD, sales order invoice header, where payment status is blank. So these are the invoices which are unpaid. P means paid and blank means unpaid. So we need to find out all the unpaid invoices. Next step, we need to calculate for each invoice since how long it's open. So how do you do that? Very simple. Current date, side datum minus last changed date of invoice. When was the invoice last changed at? So you get number of days since when the invoice is open. And like this, if you calculate for every invoice, let's say customer A is there. For customer A, there are like 3 invoices, and the first invoice was on 1st of January. So it's due since 10 days, for example. The second invoice is due for 30 days, like this. Fourth, next invoice is due for 40 days. So like this, we'll get to know, yes, all the invoices which are due. So we got all the invoices with the current date minus last changed date. So that is the total due days. Now you need to calculate average. The simple formula of average is total divided by count. This we study in school days, right? That's a formula of average. So you will calculate how many total invoice due days are divided by invoices. For example, for A, one invoice is due by 10 days, another due by 30 days, another due by 50 days. Totally, there are 3 invoices. So that count comes to be 80 by 3. So you will get the average days since when invoices are open. Then we will get to know the business partner information. Join this data with business partner to know what is the total amount which is due. Yeah. So that is what we are going to calculate. Okay. Moving on now to the next requirement. After that, we are going to check the total gross amount which is due for all the customer in a common currency. So this was the number of days. Next, we will calculate the total amount which is due. So our next requirement is to calculate the total amount which is due for open invoices, of course, in common currency. Now, this is another catch twist in the requirement. In our requirement, we are a multinational company. We are dealing different currencies like Chinese yuan, Japan yen, US dollar, Canadian dollar, Indian rupees, euros, liras, Swiss franc. We have different currencies to deal with. And we need to basically get all the amounts in a common currency. That's when you can total because $10 is not equal to 10 euro, right? So we need to also look at holistically to get the total due amount in a common currency. So first we need to identify, again, we need to load all the open invoices which are due from sales order invoice header table where payment status is blank. Second step, we need to now for those invoice number records which are due, get the items which are due because invoice header have items, multiple items which are due. And for each item, identify the currency. Yes, identify the currency. Which currency this item was sold to the customer. Then apply currency conversion to get the amount in common currency which is maintained in customizing table. So we will have our first customizing table, this one. In this, we will maintain that. After we get that, we will calculate the total amount which is due. So we will get the items table involved here, SNWD sales order invoice item table. And then also we have to calculate the total amount which is due. Finally, join this data with business partner table to get the customer information. At the end, we have to compare the total due amount which is due. Yes, we need to compare total due amount and days with a threshold and customer not being able to pay their bills. Finally, we can show the data to Mr. James in a simple report format. Now, looking at this, it's a very simple requirement to understand and implement, but the crux of it, we will learn what is the performance we will get with this and how do we improve the performance over the time. That will be the goal ultimately from this journey. All right. So let us go ahead now and see this in action, implementation of this. So I will be implementing this requirement with different developer persona. So what is the different developer persona? First, I will assume that it's a junior developer. How would a junior developer implement this requirement in the company? Someone who just joined the company. Yes, as a junior developer, junior ABAP consultant who just joined the company, doesn't have much ABAP experience. How will he or she implement this requirement? Then I will show the next persona as a senior developer. How would you develop, like you and me as expertise developers? We will implement this requirement as a senior developer, senior ABAP developer with good ABAP experience and knowledge of ABAP performance guidelines. And then we will look at the same requirement developing as a pro ABAP developer. A pro ABAP developer who is very good experience. Yes, as of course as a ABAP on HANA developer. So how as a ABAP on HANA developer you will implement this requirement? So we will look at these three developer persona, how we will implement with the different expertise and experience, and ultimately see the result in terms of performance improvement. So first one will be the junior ABAP developer. Then we will have it as a senior ABAPer. How would you develop this requirement? And then as a ABAP on HANA consultant, and compare the performance of all three you know programs which are developed. So that comparison will get to know. All right. So let's start with the junior developer. How would a junior developer implement this requirement? Yes. How would you do that? So let me start with my ADT tool. I head over back to my ABAP system, which is logged in here. Sorry, so many objects are open because parallelly around 4 corporate trainings are going on different topics like S4, CDS, RESTful application programming, Fiori elements, and also the BTP. Companies like NVIDIA, Lam Research, Huawei, the companies like Siemens, EY, they're all my customers. And we are providing corporate training to them on different and advanced topics as a corporate batch. That's the reason my window has so many things open. But let's close all of it. Let's move on to our requirement. So we come back to my local user and I'll create a ABAP program, simple ABAP program to follow the flow. So I will implement first our requirement as a junior ABAP developer. Let's call it a simple OIA, simple open item analysis. Now, before I move on and implement a requirement, a small ABAP statement, which all of you must have already used, but just wanted to quickly repeat. It's called collect statement in ABAP. What a collect statement does in ABAP. So let me put here a type, begin of ty underscore, let's say sales, and I say company, type C, length 20, and I say sales, type I, end of ty sales. I put like that, and now I will create an internal table, and I create a work area first. So work area equals to, I add a value, and I'll put company name equals to SAP, and I'll say sales equal to 100. I append this work area to my internal table, which I am declaring on the fly with inline data declaration. Okay, I have to create a table type, begin of TT sales, type table of TY sales with the default key. And I will put this over here, the structure. Yes. And I will just create my internal table also, TT sales. So we are appending the data, and let's take a use case more. I will have more data like work area company equals to, or I can just say value hash, and I will say company again, SAP again, and I say sales equal to 200 to iTab, and I will have again another record. So I have three records of SAP. Yes. Now if you print the data in iTab, what happens? I will print the data of iTab with company and sales. I will just go ahead and test it, and I will get three records over here. Very good. So that is how append statement works in SAP. It will basically keep adding the rows one after another into the internal table. Now, if I change the same append statement to collect statement in ABAP, what collect statement does? Watch out. The collect statement in ABAP, collect into iTab. Yes. So collect. So what it does, it will compare the character column. You see, this is the character column. It will compare the character column, and it will then add up. It will sum the numbers. So it will check if first time when you insert the data, which is SAP, it will check if SAP is already there. Not there, okay, creates a new record. But next time when you insert, it checks if SAP is already there. Yes, there was a record with SAP. Value was 100. So it will take this number and add, become 300. Then third time it will again add, become 500. This is how the value will be added. Yes. So that is what it does actually. Okay, we can not use value expression. It is saying that the type is not derived, no problem. So instead of hash, we use this type. So now what it does, watch out. It will just be one record will be in the output with a total of sales 500. So that is how the collect statement works in ABAP. This is not new. Those who are working in ABAP, you know it since many years. That's what collect statement does. Just a recall, quick recall how it works. I comment out this, and I'll start now my main course, which is implementing the OIA scenario. So I have already told you the steps. Let's bring it on all the steps, Control C and Control V. That becomes the backbone, that becomes our goal, ultimate goal of implementing our requirement. So first of all, we need to maintain a customizing table to store the threshold limit as per the as per the user IDs. This I've already created offline before the class, and I'll show you the skeleton of this table. It's called ZDP cust. This is the database table I've already created for all of you in our training system. If in case you are using your own company system, I'm putting the table logic into the PPT. You guys can replicate and create this table in your company. On top of this, you can also create a maintenance view so you can maintain the value. Yes, that you can do on this table. So I've already maintained my user ID value. You see most of the users have maintained here. So you can see here mob5 is my user ID. So this is my user ID. I maintained a threshold limit as 1.6 million. That's a threshold limit I maintained in this. Yeah. And I maintained euro as a currency, target currency, and I maintained the exceeding days 431. So if there is any customer I'm dealing with which exceeds 1.6 million due amount in euro currency with 431 days on average, I will mark that customer as a high risk customer. Yes, that is what I will be doing. Let me also generate the table maintenance generator over here, so that in case you are using my training system, you guys will be able to maintain the data in this table. So what I will do, I will be generating a table maintenance generator in this for this object. So I can right click this table, open this table with the GUI, and then I will go for the change mode, and then I will just go ahead and use generate table maintenance generator. I will give a screen name one step process, and I will just save it, change, some change I will just say, click OK. Just select that, click OK. Just generating table maintenance generator. So that ultimately those who are using my training system, they can use SM30 transaction to maintain or edit their entries. So what you can do now, you can come to SM30, enter the table name and go for edit. And you can maintain the entries for your user ID if it is not there. Suppose there is a user, let's say S HANA 1. Yeah, this is your user ID. Imagine like your mob user ID, you have this one. So you can maintain the amount like 1.6 million, and then you can put currency euro, and you can say let's say for 31 days like this, save it. So this way you can, if your user ID data is not there in this customizing table, you can maintain. So basically any user can say if my customers exceed this amount in this currency with these many number of average days since when they not paid their bills, I will classify that as a high risk customer. This is what it represents. That was the first part of our requirement. We have done that. So now we will read this limit in ABAP. So select single from our database table, ZDP We are reading this data into a work area, ls customizing, where user ID equal to SciU name, my current user ID. So when Mr. James runs this report, his user will be picked up from customizing table and his threshold will be picked up. When another person in his team in account receivable department run this program, based on their threshold, the threshold will be picked up. So depending on different users, the different threshold will be picked up actually when they run this report program of ours. Make sense? So that is what the system will take care and do. Now, next step. What is the next step? We need to identify the average number of days since when the invoices are unpaid by customer. So for that, first we will get all the unpaid invoices from header table where payment status is blank, not P. P means paid. Calculate the, for each invoice, calculate since how long the invoice is open, that we need to know. How long the customer have not paid their invoice actually. Yes, that we need to know. That we will do by subtracting our date, current date, with the last change date. Now the thing is, in the database table, the last change at data is a timestamp. So you need to convert this timestamp to the date. So let me show you the data in the database table. SNWD sales order invoice header table. This is a standard table. In your company system you will also have it, and you see this is the timestamp data. It's not date, so you can't subtract the timestamp from the date. You have to convert this to date first, then only you can subtract. So that we will be doing in our next step. Yes. Now what if the user have more than two threshold limits? It will pick up the first entry because we are doing select single. It will pick up the first entry which it finds the first. It will come out of it. So now side data minus last change at due date will come. Then we will count the invoices, total invoices, and we will calculate the average. We'll also join our data with business partner. So let us start developing this part. So I say select. I will also declare a couple of structures on the top. So let me declare a couple of types. Begin of ty. First we will put a type for calculating days. So I will start declaring my type business partner ID, type SNWD business partner, BPID, company name, type SNWD BPA, company name. Then we will put open days int 4, and we will also put here count of invoices. Yes, invoice counts. So invoice count how many invoices are open for this customer. We will get that end of type. This is my first kind of calculation. We will put the type. Then we'll put the second type for amount calculation, just for amount. So we will again have the business partner ID. And this time we'll have the gross amount, which is due, and the currency code with which this amount is due. So we will put currency code in which it is due for each customer. Then we will create a type again. Final result of open item analysis, where we will put company name, business partner, total average open days, total gross amount, and final currency code, and also a property called tagging, with which we will tag our customer whether this customer exceeded the threshold limit or not, to classify the customer whether they will be able to pay their bills on time or not. So you will never go to a customer calling them again and again if they just took the credit yesterday. No matter even they took $50 million credit yesterday, you won't call them up because it was just one day. At the same time, you will not bother to call a customer which just took a credit of $1, which is around 100 days ago or 1 year ago. You don't care about that, right? But yes, you care about a customer which has a total credit due of, let's say, $1 million, and it's almost 6 months they have not paid their bills. They have not paid a single penny. So that is what your threshold is all about. You will compare and you will classify those customers for Mr. James. That's our scenario. So these are our types. Let's declare the internal tables for these types, or maybe we can do it on the fly. So now I will start reading the data. Select star from SNWD sales order invoice header as head inner join, or let's say invoice head as inner join, SNWD sales order B, SNWD BPA. Join condition, invoice table, buyer GUID compares with BPA table, node key. If you don't know the relationship between tables, I request you to check the DB design created by Sanket. So then where the invoice table payment status is blank, which means the invoices are not paid yet by the customer. So we're starting this processing now from both the database tables. Why it's giving an error? Joined must have into clause. Of course, you have to say into, and you will get data in a ls open, let's say. Now you got the open data. So first of all, as I told you, you need to convert the timestamp of when was the invoice last changed to the date, so you can find the difference. So we will say convert timestamp from this ls open dash invoice data, change that into date, lv last date when invoice was changed. Time zone, we have to put time zone. Size zone low, size zone low is a system variable to get you the current time zone in which user is running the report. Then we will calculate the difference between the days. So we will get here the days difference, and for that we will store the data into this structure ty days. So I will create a on fly structure, open days value hash or value ty days, and we will say here how long it's been open. So open days equals to my current date, side datum, minus when was the invoice last changed at. This will give me the days difference. Apart from that, we will maintain rest of the other data like business partner ID, and we will just get that from the ls open business partner ID, company name, and the invoice count also. So let's do that. How many invoices are open? Let's call it as one. Yeah, let's call it as one. So each invoice we are counting as one, and ultimately all this data we will collect in an internal table. So we will say collect ls open days to lt open days, and of course I will declare lt open days on the fly if I can, if they allow inline data declaration. Hopefully they don't. In this collect statement they don't, so I have to create it up over there. So let me declare internal tables, ty days, lt open amount, ty amount, and lt OIA final result, ty OIA. Okay, so we will collect this data into our internal table, which will tell us the total days. So it will keep counting one. So for same customer, if you remember, I showed you at the initial start of our class how collect works. So for every character data, it will sum the numbers. So it will here at the end of it, it will check the total days. It will sum these numbers, number of days open. It will sum these counts also. So we'll ultimately get the count also and number of days also since when invoices are open in our this internal table. So this is our first block of code. Now what you can do is you can actually print this data right down there to show at least some data to the user. So you can just loop at this data into ls open days, and you can move corresponding, or you can say ls oia equals to corresponding hash ls open days, or just say ty oia and loop, and then we will say append ls oia to lt oia, and we will show the demo output on the UI. Display data. We pass the data over there. Perfect. So this is the first part of the execution or computation. Now, before you move the data, yes, actually what you can do, you can here calculate the average days, because we have got the total days and we've got total count of invoices. So it makes sense to calculate the average days. So just it's better to do that. So I think we have to change the logic a bit. Let me declare the LSOIA also. And now I can just start getting the, of course, corresponding is fine. Yes, corresponding is fine, but we need to get the total open days equals to ls open days. How many total invoices are there? Open days divided by how many count of invoices are there? Invoice count. Yeah, this is the part we are calculating the average. So this was the commented code. Bring it down. That's what we are doing here. calculating the average. So step by step, line by line, no copy paste. I'm explaining every line. First I explained you scenario, use case, requirement, implement the first step, second step, third step. Now once this is done, we got the days. What about the amount? So now it's time to process amount. So load all the invoices from item table, check in the header table which are unpaid invoice. Again, we have to inculcate the header table because this is the table where you have payment status. In item table, you have the amount which is due, but you don't have the payment status. Yeah. So that you will join item, header, and business partner, all three, to get the total due amount, and then apply currency conversion to euro, and then total the amount and display it to the user. So let's come back and write the logic. Sales order invoice item as item, inner join sales order invoice header as header, or head, or just say invoice, and we'll put the join condition, of course. So what's the join condition? My item table parent key as invoice on my item table parent key compares with invoice table node key. Again, we do inner join with business partner data on my header table buyer guide compares with business partner node key, where my invoice table payment status is blank, and select. So now we start reading the data, and of course we have to have a into clause, of course, ls o amount, open amount. So we got here this information. So what is the next step? Our next step will be to now utilize this amount which is in different currencies, and we need to convert it to a common currency actually, so that we can total that amount. So to be able to do that, I will apply currency conversion. Yes, and for that SAP provide a standard function module. So call function, and the function name is convert to local currency. Yes, this is the function module which is there since years and years in SAP. Nothing new, which does the conversion. How it does the conversion? So every SAP system have database tables to apply currency conversions. Yes, from one currency to another. These database tables should have the currency exchange rates maintained already, with which SAP system does the currency conversion for you. These rates are fluctuating every single seconds, and the basis team or finance people usually maintain these rates in your company system. If you are using your company system for this course, and if the rates are not maintained properly, then it will dump. So please ask your finance team to maintain rates. If you are using Anubhav training system, we have already maintained the rates for you. Some of the tables used for currency conversion behind the scenes are TCURR, TCUKY, TCURC. These are the important tables where rates are maintained. We'll not go into that part, that's a finance part. However, we will just reuse this function. So press Shift Enter and it generates the code for you. Shift Enter, Shift Enter, Shift Enter, Shift Enter, Shift Enter, Shift Enter to generate the code. Let me also declare a work area for our open amount. Come down. So we will pass here the date, side datum. We'll pass the foreign amount. So amount will come here in this. from the item table. And then the gross amount which is due. This is the amount which is due. What's the currency of this amount? The currency will come also from database. In which currency the sale was happened, whether it was in Japan yen, Chinese yuan, Russian ruble, or Indian rupees, or you know Turkey lira, or maybe the European euro. What was the currency? What is the currency I want to convert? So that Mr. James have maintained in the customizing table. So we'll get that currency. This is the currency I want to convert. So these are the things. And finally, we get the local amount converted. This will be the converted amount. I'll remove the unwanted code right now. Uh, yeah. Local amount is what will be the converted amount, which we will maintain in our work area, which where we are collecting all the amounts. This is the LS amount, that gross amount. We will then also maintain currency code equal to customizing currency code because it's already converted. Now, one thing please understand and remember, in our training system, we only have rates maintained to euro. Okay. So if you guys are using this scenario, please use euro as a target currency always, because I know that we only maintain euro rates, any currency to euro or any currency to dollar. We maintain those rates in the system, in our training system. If you are using any other currency other than dollar and euro, it will not work. If you want to make it work, you can of course go ahead and ask finance team to maintain rates in the system. So that is the currency code we add. Apart from that, we also add the business partner ID for which customers these rates are. So LSO amount dash business partner dash BPID. And then finally, we will collect all the data. We will calculate the total amount which is due. So we say collect ls open amount into lt open amount. That we are doing. Fantastic. Okay, so this part is also done. So last step is to get the amount. So we can come back here and say read table into ls open amount which is due in a common currency with the key business partner ID equals to ls open days business partner ID. So for this business partner which you are processing, tell me the open amount which we can add to our final result open amount. So what is the total gross amount which is due and in which currency it is due? Done. And we will finally get our result in LTOIA. Fantastic. Awesome. Now, last but not least, we have to also tag the customers which exceeded the threshold. So I will check if the total gross amount which is due is more than, and total open days, average days is also more than, else. So finally we will do the tagging. So if it is exceeding the threshold, tag. It's a risky customer. Untag. It's not a risky customer. So we will get this customizing, ls customizing, where we have the amount already. So in the customizing table, we do have the total maximum gross amount open and ls customizing where we have the maximum days open. Done. Congratulations. Finally, I also want to note down. See, why are we doing all this? This is a practical scenario, not just for fun. We want to know how much time it takes to develop, basically run execution time, how much execution time it takes to run this code actually. That's our ultimate goal, right? So later on, when we redevelop this scenario with code to data paradigm techniques, we will get to know, yes, in general, we'll get to know how much time improvement, how much performance improvement are we going to get. That's the ultimate goal, guys. Right? So how much time it will take. So to be able to know that, we will use CL ABAP runtime class to create a timer. That's a class in SAP which we can use. Yes. So let me start a timer when we start the execution of the program. So I come here, I use CL underscore ABAP underscore timer class, CL HR. So basically there is a class in SAP which we can use to start a timer. CL ABAP runtime. That's the class name. CL ABAP runtime. And I say create a hour timer. It will count the time in milliseconds. And I'm starting the timer now. T1. When my program starts, I get the time. So it starts like a clock, like a timer. Like when you do relay race or race in school days, your coach, your PT coach used to start a time, right? This is a timer. You're starting a timer. Once the program execution over, we will end the timer. We get T2. Now ultimately T2 minus T1, we will get the final time. And this time comes in microseconds, so we will convert into milliseconds. So T2 minus T1 divide by 100. So we come back and we also put that here in the name, and we will just say total time taken was T3 milliseconds. Wow. So program will also calculate the time it is taking to execute this requirement, this scenario. Now please remember, again I want to remind you that this is with the experience of a junior ABAP developer. Now you may be wondering, Anubhav, why did you do select and select? Yes. Why didn't you use aggregations? Yes, I understand. Think from the perspective of a junior ABAPer. How will he or she will develop when they come first time in the company? And how does it impact performance when you develop? By keeping the performance guidelines in mind, and how will I develop as a ABAP on HANA consultant? We will compare all three with three different techniques. All right, coming back, it's time to run. Show is ready. Let's go for the show. F8, it's computing, and there you go. Only one customer exceeds that limit of 1.6 million euros, and days 431 days were there. So this is the customer which is tagged. But important is the time, 4714 milliseconds. You can see the time it is taking. That's the time. Note down this time. So if a junior web developer implement a requirement for Mr. James, this is the time program is taking. Imagine there are just 2000 records right now for invoices. If there are 20 million records, how much time it will take? You can multiply. Yes, multiply the ratio. So that's the time it is taking. Now, most importantly, the $1 billion question, how to improve. So we will take a break here, and after the break, I will show you as a senior ABAP developer like you and me, how would we develop the same program? Same result will come, but will this time improve or not? That's what our benchmark is. Yes, we need to compare with this benchmark. So we'll take a break here, and on the other side of the break, I will redevelop this requirement as an experienced ABAP developer with simple guidelines which I taught you in the last class. And we will see how it will improve the runtime of the program. So let's take a break here and we'll join back after a short break. All right, welcome back after the break. So before the break, we learned about a scenario, practical scenario, and we discussed about how this practical scenario can be implemented as a simple ABAP developer. We saw the time it take to implement or basically execute our scenario was 4714 milliseconds to execute and get the results. That was when a fresher ABAP developer with almost 0 years of experience with a simple ABAP training implements this requirement. If I got to give this requirement to you who are an experienced ABAP developer now, you would certainly look forward for the performance guidelines taught to you. Simple performance guidelines in HANA is avoiding select star, using aggregate functions, making use of SQL functions and comparisons. When we are reading the data, applying the proper conditions and where conditions and group by conditions so that you can minimize the amount and volume of data transfer from database to ABAP. These are some of the guidelines you know I know. So we as an experienced ABAP developer now go and rewrite this program a little bit in a better way and see how much performance improvement can we expect from this. We will be evaluating the performance improvement in terms of percentage. Let's first go back and rewrite this code. I'm not going to touch this code, don't worry. This code is going to be there for you. When you guys are practicing, you will be getting this source code as usual as part of a notepad file. This is the notepad file you will receive from me in the study material where you will actually find this source code including the basics which I taught you for collect statement. And now I will proceed further and rewrite the same application or same report as a experienced ABAP developer like you and me who knows simple guidelines of HANA. Let's do that. So we will just copy the program, duplicate the program and then improve it. So I said duplicate in ADT. I will give a new name called OIA aggregation. So I will simply follow very basic rules of HANA. These basic rule includes avoiding select star, using the aggregate functions with the group by, and putting conditions wherever there is a chance of database being hit multiple times, means iterative DB calls. So first we start here with the business partner and the invoice header data. I only pick up the columns which I need, like my business partner table, business partner ID, business partner, company name, and finally the invoice last changed. These are the only columns I would need. So of course it also brings down the complexity. So I come down and now I will just go ahead and use the information. So we just put change the date, okay, business partner ID, company name, and we also use aggregate function. So earlier we were totaling all the invoices one by one, but now I don't do that. I say count. Please tell me the total number of invoices directly as invoice count. Wow. Now since we are using aggregate function, all the other columns which you are keeping in the clause should be part of group by. So we have to add the group by condition now. That's a rule of SQL. This rule I studied in school days or actually college days. Yeah. So that we add it. So it will count the total number of invoices directly in the invoice count property. This is the invoice count property. We're directly getting the count. So now we get the direct invoice count over here. So we don't have to put this, directly get it. So on a same day, if customer have taken 3 credits or 3 invoices, they will all come together. They will not be counted individually. The system will count it. So of course now your value for date should also be multiplied by number of invoices, ls open dash invoice count, so that you get the exact number of days as open days. So a very small change. Avoid select star, use aggregate functions in the system. Just 2 basic change. Next, let's come down here as well, and we'll get only the columns we need. So business partner, BPID, and the item table, gross amount, and we will do a sum. Please sum the total amount which is due. And also the item table currency code. And now we need to put these columns which are not participating with aggregate function in the group by clause. Makes sense. That's our updated condition. Perfect. Beautiful. Now, apart from that, you can also see we are doing currency conversion. So what happens actually in SAP? When you do this currency conversion, behind the scene in this function module, there is a call to database. Which database? It is the currency table. It is going to make a call. So it will hit the currency tables, and in currency tables, it will fetch the currency rates from currency tables now. Now to do that, what is happening? Select and select is already a loop. Yeah, this is a select, this is a end select. It's already a loop. Inside the loop, it will hit database. So that will become a kind of a nested select. Yeah, so that is very dangerous, also time consuming. But at the moment, I cannot completely avoid it, but I can suppress it. For what cases? I'll put a simple if condition. If my currency in which I need to convert is different than the value of the currency already, why do I call? Basically, I'm telling if the already amount is in euro, why I need to convert to euro again? I don't need to. So I will check if the currency in the database table is not matching with the currency in the customizing table. Only then I should do the currency conversion. Hit the currency tables to load the rates and convert. Done. Next, everything looks good, simple, easy. I will save. So very simple mathematical changes I have done so far, guys. Very simple changes I've done, guys. I've not done any complicated change. Yeah, I've not done any complicated change in the use case here. Yes, so we've not done any complicated change. We simply use the very basic rules, actually very basic rules of the system that we have done. So let us now go ahead, and what I will do, I will just go ahead and activate this program. Yes, so we have applied aggregations, we have used avoid of select star. Yes, we completely avoided the select star. We are now going to proceed further and execute our application and see how much runtime it takes, how much time it takes to execute. Yeah, so just wanted to double cross check, and average will be calculated here by invoice count, open days. Okay, amount will be calculated here. Check this. If it is not matching, then get this amount, and this time will be total amount we will be getting. Okay, group by this thing. Okay, let's try now. Execute this code. It calculates the OIA once again. Yeah, I believe the result is little different. This is open days is correct, but amount is little different. I don't know the reason. But look at the performance. It took, yeah, 376 millisecond. Yeah, 376 millisecond it took to calculate. Let me, yeah, let me put that in the PPT. So as an experienced app developer, when you repeat or implement the same requirement, yeah, it took how much? Just 356 milliseconds. So let me go back and put here. How much percentage of improvement is this? Let's see. How much percentage of improvement? What is the percentage? What is the percent of 376 is this value? Yes. How much you multiply 376 with, so you get this value. Yes. So what is the performance improvement? So let's come back, calculate that. So what you do is into something. So 471400 divided by 376. 1253% less time it is taking. 1254% less time it is faster. Basically 1200 and you can look at that, 54% faster. Bam. Can you imagine? Just a simple rule which you follow. You can run your existing ABAP programs by just following simple rules of avoiding select star, using aggregate function, the guidelines which I taught you, which are going to make your HANA DB happy. HANA is going to reward you. And look at the reward, is amazing. Yes, look at the reward. So a simple ABAP program can be optimized with code to data paradigm techniques if you simply use some of the golden guidelines of HANA. Okay, but Mr. James is still not happy. He want more performance improvement, right? Sometimes your manager is never happy, no matter what you do. Similarly, Mr. James is challenging me. He's saying, can you improve faster? Can you make it more faster? Can you run it more faster? So certainly now we will be learning techniques in ABAP on HANA to make our program or make our use case run more faster. And what are the techniques here? In this case, there are many techniques I will be teaching you in coming days for code to data paradigm. First will be data modeling in HANA. Yes, this is the first technique I will be teaching in our training, through which you can run your use case, your scenario much faster. Then I will teach SQL scripting. Then I will teach you AMDP. Then I will teach you view proxy. Then I will teach you CDS views. Then CDS table function. Wow. So many techniques I will be teaching you. And we will compare each of these technique performance with this, how much, which technique improve the performance. That is what we will be doing in our coming section and coming episodes. So all these techniques which I've listed down will be used by a professional like you and me who's trained on ABAP on HANA to improve performance and get to the results what Mr. James expect from us. Is this clear? Any questions so far? Please feel free to ask. Any questions so far? Please feel free to ask. No questions. So let's move on then. Okay. I
Hi,
heard some.
Anubhav.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, as you have mentioned, there are various techniques has been mentioned inside the BAP on HANA, right? Like
Yes.
the data modeling, scripting, AMDP, proxy, CDS views and all. So, how we can decide what approach inside a BAP on HANA follow while getting this result?
So my duty as a trainer is to enable you on all techniques. I cannot guarantee that in which company you work, which project you work, which area you work, what is your use case, what's the scale of the use case, which tables are you using, yes, which country you work, what is the kind of guidelines you follow, which are the criticality of the projects, how many tables you use. There are millions of combinations like that. So it is impossible for me to tell by pinpointing that this is the best way. So my duty as a developer to enable you with everything. You have to apply these techniques in your project and see which one gives you the best result and go with that one. However, during explanation of these techniques, I will tell you guidelines. Yes, in what cases which one will be better. Some guidelines which will help you to decide better. But believe me, there is no one in this on this planet who can pinpoint and say that this is the best way. It is all you have to use the expertise from the course and apply in your project and see which one works for you better. In one project for me, this technique worked very well. In another project, this technique worked very well for me. However, in the third project, this was the technique which was giving me the best results. So, what is our goal? To know everything as a consultant, as a technical consultant. So, if in case somebody asks us to apply a technique or we ourselves want to try out a technique, we can do that. But there is no thumb rule, sir, which I can give it to you. What will work best? If there would have been a thumb rule, then why I need to teach everything? I will just teach that one technique and finish the course. Absolutely. Okay. So now let's first move on. Before we move on to any of the technique, we need to first understand now HANA because we have to do something very differently, fundamentally, what we've been doing till today. Till today, even the last program I did, which gave me some 1500% improvement, what we were doing, we were pulling the data in ABAP. We were processing the data in ABAP. We were still writing this. Load the data, process the data in application layer. The moment you write a ABAP program, you are bound to process everything in ABAP. But to get to that next level, that extreme level of performance, that you need to squeeze out the best performance from this database. So you have to flip the pyramid and you have to push down the logic to the database level. So more and more processing you got to push down here. Of course, with the query, little bit of logic was pushed down, but not everything. So you have to take extreme measures now for that. And in order to even achieve that, you need to first know how these two layers meet together. Yes. How do they connect together? That we need to know. That we need to know. So let's go ahead and talk about how ABAP meets HANA. This is very, very important. So first I'll explain you HANA structure, HANA DB structure. Then I will explain you the concept of design time and runtime object. And then I will explain you the concept of schema. And then I will explain you how ABAP meets HANA. Wow, how ABAP meets HANA. Okay, let's start first with the HANA DB structure. What is HANA DB structure? So let me log into my remote desktop. Those who are using our training system, you have to use remote desktop to connect to HANA database with HANA Studio. Just connecting. Hold on, please. It's just loading up to my HANA database. And I will explain you first this structure of HANA DB. So look at these sections in HANA. What are these sections? Let's understand one by one. So first section is backup. The backup section will be used by database administrators to take a backup of the database. In case of some mishappening, you should be able to recover your data for your business. That will be done by taking database backup. So this is what the first option. Again, not relevant for us. Used by database administrators. The second section is security. In the security section, you will see users and roles. HANA is a system. It is a product of SAP. As I told you, some companies just buy HANA. They don't buy ABAP at all. So if your company is using HANA, you also need to give permission to people to log in, to do activities in HANA. So in order to allow people who are authenticated. Only those people should be allowed to access database. We create users, and to allow permissions to the users to do some activities or not allowed to do some activities, we create roles. So user and roles. So in the roles, there are some predefined roles. Yes, and there are some custom roles. Again, this is managed by a database administrator or a database security administrator. So in your company, you might hear about HANA security consultants. They will manage this particular tab. Again, not our cup of tea. The third section is provisioning. If you remember, in the early days of our training, I told you about that we can move data from a non-SAP or a SAP system to HANA, like big data, Hadoop, Twitter, Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, IBM DB6, different databases you can bring in data. There are data provisioning techniques to do that. Techniques like tools and techniques like SLT, SAP Landscape Transformation, SAP DXC, Direct Extraction and Connection, SAP BODS, BODS, Business Object Data Services, again used by HANA consultants and database administrators to move data from non and SAP DB to HANA DB. Those connections are added here in the provisioning section along with remote sources to connect to databases. Again, not our cup of tea as a developer. So these three sections are used by database administrators, security administrators, and database modelers to move the data, manage roles, manage security, and take backup and recovery. Now comes his developer's view. We are developers. For us, these are the two sections which are important. So the first section is called content. A content is nothing but it's a collection of packages. It's a collection of packages. So content is a collection of packages. So let's start. What is content? Now what is a package? Guys, a package is nothing but it contains development objects. That's what a package contains. Yeah. A package contains development object. Yeah. That is what a package contains. Like in a ABAP. Now, don't confuse this package with a ABAP package. Okay. Don't do that. It has nothing to do with a ABAP package. What you do in a ABAP systems. Okay. So what is a package? A package is a collection where you develop HANA objects. It has nothing to do with package we see in ABAP SCAT. Don't misconceptualize. Don't mix these two concepts. Package is where you store your development objects in HANA, where you store your where we store our development objects in HANA. That is what package contains. Now, a package provide first of all security. Wow, wow, Anubhav. Security. What is security? So suppose you are working on US Navy projects or US government project. You are working in a company which is serving multiple clients, manufacturing clients, pharmaceutical clients, and US Navy also. You have been assigned a US Navy project, top secret project you are creating. You don't want other developers in the system to know about what are you building. So what do? You will create a package and you will grant the permission of this package to only the users who are assigned to this US Navy project. So other developers in your company cannot see what are you doing. So package gives security. Package gives security. First benefit of the package. Second, it provides grouping of development objects belonging to a team. So we can decide who can develop with your team, who has permission to activate, deactivate, and create new objects inside a package. Permissions basically. Third benefit, package is the only way we can transport our development objects to the quality and production system. That's what we can do. Okay. Next, package also serves as a namespace. It is the home of all the design time objects in SAP HANA. So package is the home of all the design time objects in SAP HANA. It holds all the design time objects in SAP HANA. Now, Anubhav, what is design time object? Hold on, I'll come to it. Yes. Now, next, it serves the namespace for our objects, which means you can create a table with the name Mara, and SAP can deliver a table with the name Mara, provided the packages are different. Yes, they will avoid namespace conflicts. Your object and my object can be same if we all develop in our own packages, because it serves a namespace. Yes. What does that mean? I will explain that also. So SAP develop and deliver their own objects in HANA with their own packages. And we can create then our own objects in our own packages. Now the $1 billion question, what's how this namespace works? And design time object, what is it? So let me give you a practical example of what is a design time object. So imagine I have a SAP HANA, I bought SAP HANA in my company. I have a development system, I have a quality system, and I have a production system in SAP. Yes. Development, quality, and production. Development, dev, q, and p. Okay. We have three systems. Of course, usually that's a system landscape in SAP. We have dev, q, and p. These are the three systems we have in SAP. Okay. So now in the development system, my manager asked me to create a database table. Anubhav, create a database table to store order data. What you typically do? Database understands SQL. So I went ahead and say create table order ID of integer type, order date, datum, or let's say that's data type, and then I will put the amount and customer and blah blah, all these information I put. I run this SQL command to the database in the dev system, and the table got created. Yes, you all know the table. Ultimately, the table got created in the database with these three columns: date, order ID, and the amount. That got created over here. So ID, date, and amount. Very good, fantastic. I'm very happy. Yes, this has happened. Now, after this, you give this command here and you give this command here manually, and the table got created in the tables, in the systems. Very good, very happy, fantastic, very good, beautiful. Now, you all know the primary key is ID right now. Yes. Now people started testing. Yes, people started testing. People started using your software. Yes, very happy, good. Now requirement came. The primary key should be changed to make ID and date together as a composite key. This is the requirement. I want to make I want to make a composite primary key, ID and date together, a composite key. That's what I want. I want to make a composite key, ID and date together. ID and date together. That's what I want. So what I do in database, I fire alter command, alter table order, ID, primary key, ID, date. So what I did, I run this command in development. It did the work. It did work. Very good, fantastic. I go to quality. The moment I try to do change my primary key, it give it the error because there is already a data in the table. I can't change the primary key. So what I did, I deleted all the data and then I run alter command. It did the change. Very good. When I go to production, I again did alter. It failed because there is already a data in the table. I can't change the primary key. So my question to all of you, my friends, today, this evening, India is asking you, tell me, will you flush out customer data because the requirement changed? And will you ask your customer to create all last 20-year order data again because requirement changed and now you have to have a composite key? What do you think? In production, will you flush away? Will you flush it?
No.
No.
Because just my manager say requirement changed, I'll say, okay, all last 20 year, whatever orders were created, I'll flush it out. I'll change the key. You cannot, guys. So what do you have to do? You have to now make a copy of this database table. Move all the data from your database table to this copied table. Then delete the data. Then adjust the primary key. And finally, move the data back again from the copied table to main table. And if this table is associated, means it has a join condition foreign key with 100 other tables. Repeat the exercise for all the 100 tables. Can you imagine the havoc it creates? And all of this manually. Very dangerous. What do we do? What's the solution then? How do we adapt to the new requirement without hampering the data? How? How? How we do? Yes. Very good question. So we can do this. Yes, we can do this. How? So guys, watch out. SAP introduced a concept of design time object. What it says, you don't have to write SQL. What you do is you write a file. This file is written in plain English. If you want to create a table, what you do is you write a plain English. Yeah, just plain English you write. What is that plain English? You will say. So you will say table, table name, order, curly braces, ID, integer, date, that's amount, integer, end of curly braces, and put here key ID. Give this file to database. What do you mean by database? Give it to database engine. So in HANA database, there is something called SQL processor. It's an engine. What this processor does, it will compile this file. And after compilation, it will convert this file into a SQL code automatically for you. Yes, SQL created, table created. Now you don't write this SQL in quality and production. You send this file only to to quality and production. So you send this file to quality production, activation happened, SQL generate, table created. You send this file to production, activation happened, SQL generated, table created. Now, now, what you do if requirement changed? You simply come here, you put date also, and send this file again. You activate. In development, when you activate, there is no data in the table. The alter table command gets generated and table key is modified. In quality, when activation happens, the alter table command generates, there was no data, it gets updated. In production, when activation happens, there was a data. The SQL processor will make a copy table. It move all the data in copy table. It flushes the data, change the key. It move the data back from the temporary table to main table and delete the temporary table. This processor does this for you for free. Wow. Wow, guys, what a concept. And this object, what we call this object, we don't call it as Spider-Man. We need to give a good name. So SAP give the name of this object as design time object. You create design time object. You always transport design time objects to the quality and production. When the activation happens, it creates the runtime objects. So these are the runtime objects. So what is created in the database are the runtime objects. Like a table is a runtime object. View is a runtime object. Yes, all these are all these are runtime objects. Yes. So that's the concept of design time and runtime object in database. Advantages: we don't have to deal with SQL, which can disrupt your database, and all the tasks are done behind the scene automatically. Another benefit: if let's say the change which you are sending to production, this change, it will make your database inconsistent. If it makes your database inconsistent, yes, what happens? The activation fails. System will never leave your database in inconsistent state. In college days, there was something called acid property: atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. System will protect that. The activation will fail. It will never touch your database if something it anticipates is wrong. If database cannot accommodate this change, system will decline the change. It will never disrupt your runtime objects. But if you give a direct SQL, there is a disaster which can happen. So that's why we deal with design time object. Now, where are these design time objects stored? They are stored inside a package. Inside a package. So package is a home of design time objects in HANA. Wow. Now, the next important question, Anubhav, where are the runtime objects stored then? The runtime objects are stored inside schema. Yes. So if let's say what I'm doing in my company, I am giving my design time object name, let's say Anubhav. I am creating my object inside a package. Let's say PKG is my package name, and I'm creating an object with the name Anubhav. My object name inside the database will be what? My object name will be package name double colon my object name. So package serve a namespace also. Yes, a namespace, which means you and I both can create object with same name Anubhav, provided our object live in our own packages. Yes, our object live in our own packages. Our own packages. Our own packages. So that is the concept of namespace. So your name of the runtime object will be package name colon colon object name. That will be the name. Okay. This is how it works. Now, where does the runtime object live? Runtime object lives inside schema. So what is schema in HANA? Schema in HANA is the home of all the runtime objects. When activation happens of a design time object, a schema runtime object gets created inside schema. Where are all the schemas, Anubhav? All the schemas are part of the catalog folder. So if I go back to HANA, in HANA you will see we have a catalog folder. This is the catalog folder. This is where all the schemas are. Wow! Woohoo! All the schemas are part of catalog folder. Schema is the home of all the runtime object. It also provides security on who can select, insert, update, delete, drop, truncate, execute, call, debug our runtime objects. When a user is created in HANA, a schema with the same name as username also created in HANA DB, which will be users local playground where you can do whatever you want to do, man. It will be your local playground, yes, for learning, training and development purpose. When we connect an ABAP system to HANA DB, we are actually connecting to a schema. So all the tables, views, etc. what you see in ABAP in SC11, they are all created inside a schema. Inside a schema. In our training system, we can see that schema name in ABAP using system status. Let me show you. I go to ABAP system in Eclipse. I open Control 6 GUI. I check system status and then I will see the schema name. Look at this. This is the schema. Your ABAP system is connected to HANA. To HANA. This is the name of the schema. Your ABAP system is connected to HANA. Yeah. Now, can you see this? Yes, you can copy this. Go back and you can see over here the schema name SAP HANA DB. There you go. Yeah, that's the schema. So any database table which you see in SE11, you can see them here. This is the actual runtime objects. You can find them here. So I can apply a filter on table. Let's say Mara. So I can filter Mara. And then you will see here the Mara table. This is the actual Mara table, which is physically created inside the database. This is the actual Mara table. What you see in SE11, actually it is here in the database. This is the actual table. You can see it here in the database. You see all the data. So always and always, whenever your ABAP system is writing, reading anything from SE11, it's all happening in this particular schema. Your ABAP system don't give a damn. It doesn't care other than this. This is the schema which your ABAP system is communicating to. Always and always. Yes. Now, by chance, if you log into HANA in our training system, if you don't find this schema, it means you don't have permission to view it. So in case if you log into our training system, you are using our Anubhav training system and you connect to HANA, and if you don't see this schema actually, then you can contact my team, server team, to mention that you can't see the schema in HANA DB. We will give you permission to view this schema in HANA DB, because this will be required in our next class. So this is how ABAP connects to HANA using concept of schema. So all the tables which you see in SE11 in ABAP, they are ultimately created always and always on that schema, guys. Yes. I hope everybody is clear. What is a schema in HANA? What is catalog? What is content? What is package? And what is schema? We will see more about schema in the coming classes when we'll go deep dive inside database to build data models. Next class, we'll start with building data models. Any questions before we close today's session? Questions, questions, questions. Heavy dose of antibiotic? Not really. Okay, try to go through the lecture tomorrow once again with the video when the video is
Anubhav,
available, and then you can
Anubhav, I
come
have.
back with your questions. Yes, sir.
So every like whenever the user is created, you have mentioned that the schema also with the same name would be created in our development system. And say, for example, if you create a Mara, like the name would be stored as package name Mara. But when we transport that changes into quality and production, you will not have with our schema name, right? And how does that store in production or
That
quality?
we will see in the next class when I show you transport mechanism after building some design time objects. Okay,
Sure, sure.
that I'll show you in a practical use case. Sorry, I cannot give you the link to download HANA Studio. I don't have one. You have to ask your basis team in your company. Anubhav, I missed the system tab, how to open that. So you go to HANA Studio, go to window, show view, and sorry, perspective, and say reset perspective. Yeah, and then say reset perspective. You will be able to see the system tab. Yeah, this tab you see. Make sure before you press reset perspective, on the top right corner, you have already opened HANA development perspective. So first you have to open this, and then you have to go window, perspective, reset perspective, and reset. Then you will see the system tab on the right hand side. Also, sometime if you click minimize button, it has gone on the left side. You see this left side, it is docked on the left. You click again, it will come back. This is how you can work with the tool. Okay, any other questions? Okay,
Anubhav, I couldn't download my Eclipse, and I could download, but it doesn't work with SAP as SAP with my GUI.
did you follow the video?
I did, yes. I have downloaded also the edit successfully, but it doesn't work with SAP GUI.
Mhm. I understand, ma'am, but unfortunately, it's your personal laptop. I don't have control for that. You have to
Mm-hmm.
follow the guidelines and the steps all over again, because make sure that you've added all the prerequisites, which includes the Java, JDK, the
Mm-hmm.
Visual Studio C++ runtime. This is extremely important. I've seen majority of the student forgot this and then it didn't work. And SAP GUI. These three things are mandatory. Kindly reinstall them
Okay.
once again today
Mm-hmm.
and then give it a try with Eclipse. It will 100%
And
work.
Mhm. And the Visual Studio, it's also free for download, no?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay, okay. I will try. Thank
You
you.
have to also use this VS runtime. Basically, this is called VS runtime. You need this. All
Mm-hmm.
three